your income is going to increase organically anyway.
So the big question is, what are the top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams, and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? If you ever thought about this, you're not alone. No one has been able to get the answers until now.
We spent the last few years helping agents sell billions in real estate, rubbing shoulders with top producers, which got us thinking, how can we expose more people to these insights to help raise the standard in the whole real estate industry? We then realized that we could help bridge the gap by getting the secrets from the best of the best so that you can succeed. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Elite Agent Secrets. On today's episode, it's a very special guest, Paul Saperstein, voted number 64 in the entire of the US by the Wall Street Journal. He is a 3 times icon agent, and in the last 12 months alone has done $60 million in volume just by himself. It's not including his office or anything else like that. So Paul, this is guaranteed to be a bombshell interview on how you got to number 64. So thanks for jumping on with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
The way I always love to start these, I mean, this is incredibly special. I mean, to be number 64, was there 2 million realtors? So you're well up there. You're the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, you know. I want to go back. So how long have you been in real estate? And I want to go back to why you started, how you got into it, and take us on a bit of a journey to where we are today, how you got to number 64, how you're casually doing 3 times icon, how you're doing 60 million volume. Your office did 300 million in volume. Like, these are mind-blowing numbers, right? So I'd love to unpack that because I've got a lot of questions.
So it started right out of college. I actually, when we used to read the newspaper, I called off a newspaper ad and started the Kai's Company, which is just a Florida-based real estate company. It's kind of just hanging around, you know, as an average 22-year-old in the office, and became a buyer's agent for probably the most professional agent I've met still to this day, who just took the business to a next level, and kind of, you know, he took me underneath his wing for about 5 years as a buyer's agent, and, you know, really learned the business from the ground up, how to run it as a business, not as a job. And you know, and then that really, you know, had a good start to my career, which is key. You know, a lot of times the people that I tell them the most important thing when you're picking a brokerage is probably the people you're surrounded with, because that's your support system. You know, it's not the brand name, it's not the split, it's not what everybody thinks it is. It's the people you have that are going to keep you in the business, because there's a real good chance you're going to fail.
Yeah, huge chance. It's the mentorship, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things that you said that stood out to me, and we've had this come up on another podcast, is instead of being an agent, you said that you ran the business like a real business. What does that mean? Unpack that for us for a little bit, because I think a lot of agents are like, oh, I am running a business, but are they really?
Well, showing up every day. I mean, if you had a clothing store, you couldn't show up every other day. You couldn't answer your phone every third time it rings. You could not get back to customer within 24 hours. So it's simple bread and butter stuff, but, you know, sometimes life gets in the way. And you know, at the beginning when you're hustling, it is a 24/7 business until you realize that just because I don't return that call doesn't mean I lost a commission. Maybe I lost a 1% chance of making that commission. So you can't live and die by the phone, but eventually you're going to say, hey, I shouldn't be answering the phone during dinner time with the wife or the kids. And, you know, but when you're spending money to get that phone to ring, you should answer it, you know, and you should be pleasant, especially to other agents, which are now eventually can become your partners.
Interesting. So basically, show up. Answer the call. Do what you're expected to do if you were at a quote unquote job, but because you're in business for yourself, hold yourself to that higher standard. Get to the office if you have an office. Be systematic. Be consistent, really, and just get back to people or reach out to people, right?
Yeah. It's really going the extra mile. It's really the difference between when you pull up to a McDonald's or you pull up to a Chick-fil-A? Which business are you running? Do you care what happens at the end result? Is your monetary directly affected by your attitude? I remember one time, I was maybe having a rough stretch, maybe 7-8 years ago in the business, and I have a real cheerful voicemail, which is really important to have. Kind of sets the tone if you do miss a call. And this lady who was a librarian, I'll never forget this. She goes, "Are you the same person that left that really nice voicemail? Is that the same guy I'm talking to today?" I'm like, wow. If she realized that, something's off.
Yeah.
You just got to keep it check.
Yeah. I think, the mentorship. So we both, myself, Peter, obviously yourself, who have good, strong mentors. I'm a huge, huge fan. I advocate for coaches and mentors throughout life. I think they are there to help you excel. And if you're fortunate enough, like you were, I'm sure the person who's helped coached you long after it kind of benefited them. It was, you build friendships and you can build other relationships from that. We actually had someone else on the podcast, and they were at a different brokerage, and it was 100% commission, right? Which is kind of this whole thing where it's like, it's 100%. Yeah, you pay some small fees and you get all the money, right? And he was like, yeah, but it was crap. He's like, you think it's great because you're like, I sell a home and I get all 3%, 2%, whatever it is, right? And he's like, everyone's competing with you even in the same office. No one wants to help you. There is no mentorship. There's no coaching. You basically sign over to them and you just have to find out and figure out everything. There is nothing. And he's like, so when I moved over and he took an 80-20 split, he was like, I got mentorship. I got all the coaching. I was able to grow a team. I connected with people I was would never be able to because they're part of the same brokerage. And all of a sudden, yes, I was taking only an 80-20 split, but my number of transactions was so much greater. I was making way more money, having way more fun, building multiple revenue streams. And it's like, this is what short-term versus, in my opinion, like long-term thinking looks like, right? It's like, yeah, there's other places out there where you might get 90-10, 100% commissions. But then you've got to understand there is a price you pay for that. Because if they're making less, they can afford to invest less in the brokerage, in the things that can help you, right? And what you're saying with your company, I'm not sure what you were on back then, whether that was 80-20, 70-30, or if that was 90-10 or however that worked. But I think now, especially with, for example, EXP, that is one thing that it gives that most people can't kind of grasp, is like the access you have to people, for example, like yourself, number 64, that people just don't get access to people like that easily, to get mentored from, to get help from. That it's like that's a money to can't buy thing, and you're worried about 10% on a sale you haven't got, right? You're not worried about the 300 transactions you're missing because you don't have the skill sets. You've got no one to teach you them to get you those extra transactions. Like, what's the timeline in difference? Do you know what I mean? And then the money and how fast you ramp. What's the hockey stick curve actually look like between, a slightly lower commission split, if it is, but all that mentorship versus high commission splits and no mentorship, right?
Yeah, I actually went so I was at Remax for 15 years. So I was from a 95-5 to an 80-20. The difference was the 95-5 never ended. So when you're doing $1 million of commission, you then paid them $50,000. That's 5% of $1 million. Plus you probably have about hard costs of about $10,000 a year there from hanging your license there. So, the split's not that important. I think what EXP and KW do, the fact that they actually award you for being successful and not penalize you is really the key. Like, I don't know if you ever seen any of those commercials. Oh, you're a brand new client? Oh, we'll give you an iPhone. Oh, Peter, you've been here for 15 years? We're going to have to charge you retail $9.99 for it. So it's the same mentality. It's like, it's being a number versus being part of the company. And really, the number one companies out there, whoever you decide to go with, really is the next generation of agents. I'm 46 years old. The next generation call them the millennials, they're looking for a culture. If you feel like you're part of something, you're excited about go to work, your income is going to increase organically anyway. We had some people leave the team. And also, the most impressive thing, if you look at any of those 100% companies, I don't care where they are in the country, nobody's doing more than $10 or $15 million a year there. Nobody. There's no $50 million producers, no $100 million producers. I mean, the only one that really pulled off that same thing and he went and started his own was Ryan Serhant, who started his own company. I mean, obviously he's on a 100% split, but besides for that, I've never really seen anybody pull it off successfully.
Why do you think that is?
Because there's nobody to learn from. If you're the best player on the team and you're doing $10 million, who are you training? If you take, I kind of relate everything to sports. If you watch MMA and you watch some of the best fighters in the world, the best fighters are in camp together. The guy who's the best 185 pounder gets to wrestle with the guy who's best 205 pounder every day. The guy that might be what happened to Conor McGregor. He's out on an island by himself, and now everything's gone downhill. Yeah, he's going to be a billionaire, but his what got him to this level, which is his fighting, has gone downhill, drastically.
I think it's a lot to do with hunger as well. That he reached his goal. Those few fights, he made 400 million. I mean, this is well off track, but yeah, I 100% agree. It's how do you get better if no one's ahead of you? And I really embody this. Never be the smartest person in the room. You never want to be in that position. You want to surround yourself with people ahead of you, because then you will naturally, you don't realize you do it. You will naturally pick up their traits and their habits that have made them more successful than you currently are. That's just the truth of it. And if you're around, like you said, mediocre people who are worse than you, what could you possibly learn? What are you realistically going to learn? Sure, there might be some rock star comes out of it, but the chances are far less than surrounding yourself with people who are ahead, right? So I know we got off the beaten track a little bit. So you kind of got started and you got your mentorship and you started crushing it with buyers and you really got, mentored in a big way there. So that was all at Remax, right? So then, was that right? Or was that pre-Remax?
It was, we started the Kai's company, which is a Florida State company. We went and opened a mom and pop shop. It's Fred DeFalco. Pete, you know him. So,
yeah. We met at the office.
So Fred was my original mentor. And it really wasn't so much of a mentorship, but he was the first person that actually showed me the framework of how to do it. But then it was, you got to be internally hungry or ambitious to get it done. I mean, and, still to this day, 23 years later, people say, well, I want to do exactly what you're doing. Yeah, so does everybody, but I got a 23-year head start. So, what are you going to do in your first 3 years to set yourself up for on the 20th year when your phone rings every day? That's the key. It's not what you can do now. It's especially with picking a brokerage. It's a long game. Anybody who thinks it's a short game, get quick, cash quick game. It's not. I mean, the sales cycle is way too long.
So talk to us about the first 5 years, kind of what that looked like, the progression, planting those long seeds. What are some of the actions, some of the things that you've done that now you're reaping the rewards 23 years later from?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't really take the business that serious until I was 38. And I'll tell you about that. So I used to do probably, the first year, maybe I made $70,000. I had one sale of $1 million. So that was $30,000 commission. And the rest of the year was very average. First 5 years, I probably thought about quitting every other day. Not that I didn't like the business, I just wasn't busy enough. And as a 23-year-old kid, I just didn't have enough contacts to actually, make it happen. I was an aggressive cold caller. I didn't really love picking up the phone. So it was more, networking. But it's a mental game. I mean, what happens is, you're 23 years old, you live 2 miles from the beach, and you're not getting paid for going anywhere. Maybe you play golf every day. Maybe you play tennis. Maybe you go to the beach. So, something has to trigger, I really, until I had my third child, I really didn't take the business that serious. Yeah. But, maybe it went from while I was at Remax, until I became a listing agent, really, which was what kind of flipped the switch. I would do about $10 million a year. and it was about 30 to 40 sales a year. So maybe my average sale was 300 and change.
Interesting how you say, I didn't take the business that seriously, but I still did about 10 million a year. The 30, 40,
70,000 in his first year.
70,000 first year. Like, let's just talk about breaking that belief that real estate agents, I think the statistic is like, 80 or 90% of real estate agents close like more than one deal a year, right? So when you say you didn't take it too seriously, you were doing some things to defy the the quote unquote average agent. So as you had your transition into the listing agent, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? I want to really dive deeper into this because when we sat down together, you touched on it just a little bit, but I'm sure everybody wants to be a quote unquote a listing agent, but not everybody is either equipped to be a listing agent or is cut out to be a listing agent, right?
Yep. And I didn't know if I was either. So, one thing, I've met a lot of people in the industry that have been in the industry 5 or 10 years, or maybe they haven't had their own listing, or they haven't even been on a listing appointment. So, and I can tell you right now, whatever company anybody in the audience is working with, if there's not somebody at your company that's willing to take you on a listing appointment, you're at the wrong company 100%. I'm not pitching any companies, anything good or anything bad. But if somebody's not willing to show you the ropes at least one time, you're not in the right hands. Yeah. So, it's a matter of just shifting your marketing to, we could get into, the farming now, we can get into it later, we can get into the marketing. But yeah, it's just about, focusing your time and effort either on buyer leads or seller leads. And it's not like you can just, turn on a switch and all of a sudden you have 100 seller leads. But you start, everybody when they're at the beginning of the business is hesitant to spend any money. Hey, I don't have any money. My buddy told me I'm going to have 6 months until I make any money, so I can't spend any money. If you don't spend any money, your amount of money you're going to make is limited. You can only make a certain amount of money because you can only do it organically. You can't really grow your reach.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.